Hello, everybody. This is James Dimond with Massive Action Systems, and we have an expert interview for you today. Now, we're going to be covering two different subjects. We're going to be covering, number one, getting new talent for your firm, why you should be doing it, what you need to know about doing it right, and a few things you probably need to be careful of in doing it. Now, the second thing that we're going to cover is mergers and acquisitions within the world of accounting. We'll talk about who this is for, what's happening now in this market, and what you really need to know for a smooth transaction and avoiding disasters. So to get started, though, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. You'll probably note that this was recorded live, and it's a live broadcast. So if you see a little bit of weirdness in the audio or the video might be a little jumpy, just know that's where it came from, all right? And for most of you, I'm sure you know who I am. And for those of you who have no idea who I am, again, my name is James Dimond. And in a nutshell, you know how businesses love to form strategic partnerships so they can grow their clients, right? Well, I'm that guy for accountants. I'm the strategic partner so they can get more clients easily. Now, if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to contact me. It's 269-580-8018. That's 269-580-8018. Now, our expert today, David, he is the Chief Operating Officer of Whitman Business Advisors, and they can be found at WhitmanBiz, that's biz.com. I'll spell it for you. It's WHITMANBIZ.com, okay? And I want to thank you, David, for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you've got stuff you've got to do to be interviewed. David, I know you've got, what's the proper pronunciation of your background so that everybody know, or your proper pronunciation of your name so everybody knows in your last name?
It's a Wolfskehl.
Wolfskehl, okay, all right. So I guess to get started on this, let's talk about, give us a real quick background, like who you are, you know, who Whitman Business Advisors is, and, you know, what they do for the world.
So my background has been, I've been entrepreneurial my whole life. I never really had a resume. In the mid-2000s, I was a Fortune Small Business Boss of the Year runner-up, and I decided to sell my business at that point because I wasn't passionate about it. I got into the accounting space through Amper Policy and Matea, which is now Eisner Amper. I did a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce. Somebody from Amper came up to me and said, "We need you," which I took as a buying signal.
Right.
And now I am the Director of Operations for Whitman Business Advisors, and we're a group of 10 people. We focus solely on CPA firms, and we want to be that single source for solutions for managing partners. And so we've developed our six-pack plus of services, which are mergers and acquisitions, talent, and those two we're going to talk about today, lead generation, partner retreats, training and coaching. And so we want to be that single source solution.
So I guess let's get rolling right into it. Let's talk about the talent, okay? In the world of accounting right now, in your estimate, what are really the challenges that practice owners are facing when it comes to getting new talent in the door?
So there's a shortage of talent, right? And there's a couple of areas where that shortage really shows up. That bench, and a lot of managing partners will talk about the bench, and those are people that they would hope could be partners in the next 3, 5, 1 or 2 years. And there's a huge shortage there. Also, what we find is a lot of people after 3 to 5 years in public accounting, they decide to move to private. So we have that shortage of those partners as well as some of the younger staff. And although we'll be talking about M&A later, that shortage of partner talent is a significant driver of mergers and acquisitions as well. So they're related to each other.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So I guess when we're thinking about this, based on your experience, what's been working for firms right now to solve that issue that they face? And I guess, for our listeners' sake, what could they do right now if they might be facing the same situation that you just described?
So one of the things, because we have such a broad deliverable of services, is that we typically talk about taking a multi-pronged approach. So number one, we believe that every managing partner, part of their role should be to be recruiting all the time. They should be out in that marketplace. Another thing that's very important is that they have a story to tell, because most of the quality people out there will have multiple opportunities. So it's not just good enough to be in the right pay range, because typically it's not pay, it's culture, it's work environment. So sometimes a firm with a lousy office and poor technology will tell us they have problems recruiting. They are connected to each other. So that's one prong, making sure that you get your house in order. The second thing that we recommend firms do is hire recruiters and be willing to use them, because again, it's difficult finding talent. Now, we're recruiters, we like that, but we tell all of our firms, you should also be spending time here. I'll always remember when I was talking to a managing partner of about a $5 million firm, and he said he just gave away $180,000 worth of business because he didn't have talent to take care of it. Mm-hmm. When I asked him how much time he spent recruiting for talent, he sheepishly told me none. So is it surprising that he's having trouble finding talent? I don't believe so.
Oh yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, that all makes sense, and I'm sure that's some usable information. They've got to keep their eyes peeled and be part of that process too. Now, let's fast forward, I guess, a little bit for somebody. Let's say maybe they've located somebody, but their big concern is when they're sitting down, they're in the interview process, what do they really need to be talking about to make sure they're getting the right person, the right fit for their organization?
Well, we believe that if chemistry isn't there, very rarely is that a successful hire. So they need to be talking about their chemistry. Do they like that person? They need to see if that person's a fit for the culture of the organization. So is this a firm that works 80 hours during tax season, or do they have flex time? And that managing partner, and I believe this is managing partner responsibility, needs to show some love to that applicant. Make them feel important, make them feel that they're special, because what we find is the firms where managing partners get involved versus firms where it's an HR person, mm-hmm. The managing partner is much more effective at selling the firm, getting somebody excited to join it, and therefore being more effective in the recruiting process.
All right. So now, let's take a look at, I guess, the other side of the coin here, because that's what we really want to know to get the right person in the door. But nobody likes getting the wrong person in the door, because now you got to decide what you've got to do about that. What, I guess, would you say firms should know to avoid, I guess specifically to avoid the wrong person getting in the door in the first place?
Well, so there's a couple things. Number one is using assessments. We work with somebody named Rex Gatto, and he has CPA-specific assessments, but you can use a DISC or any of the available assessments out there. It gives you insights that an interviewer will never discover. So that's number one. Number two, we work with the candidates, and we developed a 90-day onboarding process, because when I ask candidates what they do the day before they work or the first day of work, they tell me things like they'll dress up with new clothes, right, or make sure they look good. And they'll leave a little bit early because they're not sure what that commute will be. What we find is that's not a recipe for success. And those first 90 days are really when an organization will label somebody a star, okay, or we need to get rid of them. So really having a strong onboarding process where it's not just giving them a business card, showing them how to use the tax software. It's helping them define what success looks like. Mm-hmm. It's helping them develop milestones. It's giving them a mentor, again, not necessarily for the technical things, which CPAs are typically great at, It's for the soft things so that they can feel part of the organization. And if you spend the time hiring right, you onboard the person well, again, we've minimized the chances of having the wrong person in. So my strategy is really do those things better. You'll have less people you need to get rid of. But if somebody doesn't fit, they don't fit. Very rarely do you save somebody.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I can see from, my experience and all the other firms that, I work with, it makes total sense what you've said. Now, I know that a certain quantity of, our listeners are going to be listening to this and thinking to themselves, I like what you're saying. I like what you're going. Everything you've said has made, sense thus far. So if they really wanted to, I guess, get a hold of you and take it further, how do they get a hold of you? Who do they ask for? What do they ask for? What should they expect? What's the process for them?
So really our process is to share what we do, right, which is our 6-pack plus of services. And typically when we're in front of a managing partner, they raise their hand and say, I'm interested in this or I'm interested in that. So the easiest way to get in touch with us is our website, our phone number, 844-WBA-TEAM, or send me an email, dwolfskehl, WOLFSKEHL @whitmanbiz.com. And we are here to help. We want to be a resource. So if somebody has a question, a thought, we're happy to spend time.
Okay. So if somebody calls you and, they've got a little bit of a question, whether, you're going to be a good fit or not, you're going to be able to help them, guide them along that process. You're not going to make them feel pressured in any way to do anything, but it's totally up to them. You give them the information, they make their decision pretty much, right?
Yeah. One of our core values is that it's your life, whether we're working with a candidate or a managing partner. We're here to present opportunities, create opportunities, but our role isn't to make decisions for you and your firm. You know that better than we do, and our candidates know what is the right place for them better than we would ever know that.
Okay, yeah, well, totally makes sense to me. Totally makes sense to me. Is there any, I guess, before I let you go on the talent end of things on this, and we move on to the mergers and acquisition portion of it, is there anything else you think our listeners should know? Maybe it's a should ask question or frequently asked question that you want to put in there?
I think for most firms, talent is a huge opportunity. And that opportunity is to provide more training to them, especially those people that you've identified as high performers. Because as we transition into mergers and acquisitions, I talk to managing partners all the time that say, we don't have a bench of potential partners. And I believe in many ways, it might be a reflection of poor hiring, but it's also a reflection of not investing to make your younger employees ready to become a partner.
Okay, very good. Once again, this is James Dimond, and you can reach David at 1-844-922-8326. And their website is whitmanbiz, that's biz.com. And you can find them on there. You can take a look over their website, get more information on them. But I would suspect that to get the information you really want to know, I think I'd probably give them a jingle and talk to somebody in person. Okay, everybody, I shall talk to you later.